I'm Steve McMarson, host of In the RAW. Join me as I interview artists as we explore the idea of creativity.
I'm Evie, Libertine.
I'm Jacqueline, Furey.
I'm Lila, Luxx, and we're from the Bombshell Burlesque Academy.
And we're in the RAW with Steve McMarson.
The Bombshell Burlesque Academy is one of Australia's leading schools for the development of expression through burlesque. Combining elements of dance, drama, theatre, circus and tease, the Academy caters for women and men alike. Boasting some of the most dynamic solo artists in the industry, the Bombshell Burlesque Academy offers weekly classes from its Brisbane studio, with graduates participating in the Bombshell Ball.
I think creativity is the expression of yourself. So it can be anything, it can be any form, really. For us, it's dance and performance. But I think it's creating something that has come from you as a part of you that didn't exist before.
Yeah, bringing to life a concept. It doesn't necessarily have to be the first thing. You know, you can't always be the first person to do everything, but it's your take on whatever it
your
is.
interpretation.
Yeah. And I think that by bringing yourself to it, that's what makes it a creative or unique concept for you. There's a lot of things where, you know, I've talked a bit about how I need to accept that there's going to be very few things that haven't been done in the past, but by bringing myself to it is what makes it a creative concept for me.
What made you decide to follow a creative career choice rather than something more stable?
I actually have a corporate job and I have a creative job. So I have two roles that I fulfill in my life. So which one is the main one for me? They kind of both don't exist without each other in my life. And that's why I have burlesque as my creative outlet to kind of let that part of me out.
I think for me, I've just always performed my whole life, and I was never going to not perform. I've also enjoyed taking my clothes off my whole life.
Yeah.
And being sparkly and spending a lot of time looking at myself and having other people look at me, so I think that was just like a clear kind of winner.
That makes sense. I was in the position where you were in, where I was doing both. I found that I was really stifled in my day job and really struggled in that corporate structure. So I performed my whole life, so coming back to performance as a job was probably actually the most sensible thing that I could do.
Keeping yourself sane.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And burlesque for me is the culmination of all of the performance styles that I've studied. So I've studied dance and theatre and all of these other things, and burlesque allows me to put that all together, and it's my job.
Who and what inspires you?
I'm so inspired by my peers, my colleagues, and other artists that I have around me. I'm also very inspired by beauty, so I love looking at, you know, beauty on stage. But I was inspired to even start burlesque by somebody who became my teacher, by tHE. Yeah. You know, so that inspired me to get started. What inspires me to create can come from so many different places. I know with you, Lila, it often comes from a song, and I'm very much like that as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Music is, for me, generally the first point of creating a new piece for me. But that said, in terms of inspiration, my inspiration comes from everywhere. I really enjoy art and performance fields, so I go and see a lot of opera and theatre and dance, and I take inspiration from all of that. Not necessarily as I'm going to do that thing, but more of a true form of inspiration in that. I love that. I love the feeling I got from that. I want to take that back into my art.
Yeah, I think for me it's the same kind of thing. It's like all kind of different places to draw inspiration from. I'm quite I like to create a really aesthetic kind of thing when I'm making a performance, even though like I'm classically trained dancer and everything, so my routines are quite heavily dance based. It's still, for me, it's very aesthetic what I present, so a lot of the times like magazines and just shiny things that I see.
It's highly visual.
Highly visual.
Yeah.
And so like performances, that kind of thing. Obviously music too helps.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you strive to be unique in your creative endeavours?
You do need to be unique. You need to find your own gimmick. You need to find your own niche. It's a cardinal sin of burlesque to be like someone else. So it's a constant striving, and it's something that I don't think we'll ever stop looking for, that uniqueness, that thing that is us, that is the expression of us as an individual.
Yeah. That being said, burlesque, classic burlesque, is a historical recreation of what was going on in the golden age of burlesque in, say, like the 50s, and so to be able to put your own twist on that can be really hard sometimes, and there's only so many ways you can use a feather boa or wave some feather fans around, but so it's not an easy thing to be to
completely
unique, but it's your interpretation.
Exactly. No one's saying the same as you.
That's actually a concept that I've found quite challenging, is to be unique. How unique is unique enough? How different is different enough? And that comes back to what I was saying before about injecting yourself into it can be what gives it that unique element. There's been a million feather fan routines done before, but have they been done exactly the way that I might do them, or you might do them, or you might do them? Not necessarily. So that can be what makes it that unique enough.
It's really tricky. It's like with all art, everything has been done. You just need to find your way into it. And I don't think burlesque is any different.
Yeah, exactly.
What do you do to keep yourself motivated and interested in your art form?
I nap a lot. That keeps me motivated, it keeps me calm, and it keeps me sane. And I find when I nap a lot, I'm more creative. I don't know why. I think if I have enough time to nap, then I have enough time to be creative. But, also what motivates me is that if you stop creating, especially in our industry, if you stop being in everybody's view, you just drop off the radar, and people forget and say goodbye to those gigs. So that's a good motivator as well. Being able to pay rent.
Good. I find deadlines for me, which sounds incredibly what word am I looking for? Very regimented. I can often, wait to be motivated by inspiration striking, and you can sit and wait, and you can go out and look, and it still might not hit you. So sometimes actually putting arbitrary deadlines in place or having one to work towards can keep me really motivated. It can also stress the hell out of me, but it does keep things moving. I think as well, if you're really engrossed in what you're doing and you're really owning it, that is a huge motivator that keeps me really interested in itself. Yeah, I can't wait for this to look the way I want it to look. That excitement to see your own finished product. Yeah.
I think burlesque, like any creative process, you kind of have these ebbs and flows of creativity and then self-doubt. Creativity and self-doubt. Crippling self-doubt. Everything I do sucks. Why do I do this? It's terrible.
I look like I am.
Exactly. So these are a real concern. And while you're in that mode of creating, everything is great. I'm lucky enough to be in one of those at the moment, so I don't have to think too much about motivating myself. But you do get into those lulls, and it gets very hard. So then you've got to come back to, why am I doing this? What do I want to achieve? What am I trying to create? And then it's just striving to meet each of those goals, and I don't think it ever stops.
What was the biggest opposing force that you encountered on your creative journey, and has rejection ever affected your creative processes?
I think the biggest struggle for me when I first started, and I think this is something that's kind of common along a lot of burlesque performers, like we were talking about before, everyone's looking for their niche, everyone's looking for their gimmick, what makes them unique. So defining that character, defining that space for yourself is so important. It's challenging, it's rewarding when you find that, and you may not know that you found it, which is the tricky thing. But I found for myself is that I found myself in a position where I was very privileged to be booking shows before I had anything to present to anyone. So I had to come up with what I was about and what I was about to present really, really fast. And that was a tricky process for me. In retrospect, I probably would have done things a little bit different in terms of branding myself and naming myself and all of those things, but it's worked out. So that's fine, but that was tricky in the beginning. In regards to rejection, it's probably affected me because I'm a sensitive artist, but it hasn't affected my creative process because burlesque is something that's so subjective. If someone doesn't like what I do, that is absolutely fine. Someone else will. I will continue to create the things that I want to create. It's a bit of a selfish art in that way.
I think for me, rejection hasn't ever stopped me, but fear of rejection definitely has. Like you said, it's a subjective art. So will people like this? Will they hate it? Will it be popular? Will it be, will it be revered? Will I be famous? It's such a question that can really affect my creative process as a roadblock. Is this the best possible thing I could be doing in this act at this very moment? And actually letting go of that and letting it flow a little bit more is when I come up with my best work. But that can be very, very hard to do. That can be a big obstacle to overcome. Absolutely. So not rejection itself, but the fear of rejection.
Yeah, I think going back to what you were saying before, kind of finding your niche, and when you first start out, like you see someone and you're like, oh my god, I want to be them. Amazing, sparkly person, and then you realize, oh, I actually can't be you because that niche is already been filled. And as well, like if you're stepping on somebody else's toes gimmick-wise, or they feel that way, they're surely going to tell you, which can be a very terrifying thing coming from someone who's already very established and far sparklier than you are. It's alright, you get there. Like branding as well is a big one, and luckily, I don't know, I kind of saw that was going to be a thing and was quite conscious of doing that. But it's, again, fear of rejection is pretty terrifying, going, oh, I'm going to brand this thing that just happens to be myself, and then put it on stage and just take all the clothes off it and hope that people clap. And so that's quite, it was more of the fear of doing that was a bit of an obstacle rather than the actual rejection, because again, if you don't like it, someone else will. Well, it's getting to that point though as well.
Oh, totally. That's it. Well, and
to be able to go
because but like burlesque is, because it is so personal, it's very DIY. We don't have directors, we don't have choreographers, we don't have dramaturgs to come in and say, actually, you should do this and it'll be right. It's all on you. So when it fails, or you have the fear of it failing, that's terrifying. But when it works, the payoff is incredibly satisfying. Which is why we continue to do it.
So that's vicious cycle.
It's so interesting that for something that's so much about us and ourselves, we have stage names.
We have stage names, absolutely. The stage names are the bigger versions of us.
Yeah,
so true. So true.
Like
I don't think it can be my persona.
Yeah, I don't think it can be totally removed.
It's just never ever be.
I'm not that good a method actor.
Me without the sweatpants.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So I look like this all the time.
But that's so true, that when you're talking about what's out there and fear of rejection, you've created a brand, you've created that persona, which is obviously a bigger, sometimes sparklier version of yourself, and it can feel like, if this is rejected, then it's me that's being rejected. Very much so. Everyone has an idea of what they think burlesque is. I've never come across someone who says they've never heard the word. But everyone seems to have a completely different idea of what they think it is. And I'm even in burlesque circles. This is burlesque, this isn't burlesque. And then outside of burlesque, it's stripping, it's not stripping, it's Christina Aguilera, it's, Moulin Rouge.
Like ballet.
Exactly like ballet.
Right.
It's like Moulin Rouge, it's like the Lido, it's like Las Vegas. And it really runs the gamut. The tricky thing is, within that bubble of what we do call burlesque, there is such a wide range of what falls under that. I can kind of see why the general public would
I don't even
be
like
confused.
It's hard to
difficult
describe
define.
it.
Yeah.
It ranges from like a historical recreation to like really fringe performance art,
Totally.
almost like some things that people call burlesque I would call a sex show kind of thing.
Right,
Or
exactly.
performance art in
Performance
that
art.
kind of very
Very
circus.
So many different,
So I try and explain burlesque in that it's essentially a variety show where artists use elements of striptease, parody, humour, circus, whatever they can get their hands on, theatre, to tell a story in short acts.
Yeah.
In a bubble with all of the grey areas.
Yes.
That's what burlesque is.
If you could interview a creative person, past or present, living or dead, who would that be and what would you ask them?
Dita Von Teese, I know it sounds ridiculous, but that woman went from like porn star to her own like amazing brand. She doesn't even have to take her clothes off anymore. She is like the epitome of businesswoman.
She's the ultimate burlesque brand.
She is.
at the
Brand,
moment.
yeah.
Definitely.
And I would love to just a few little like bits of how did you do that? Marry a rock star, okay? I'll do that. I'll try.
Yeah.
And how does she make her hair look so good all the time?
It's true.
Did it always look like good, Dita?
Yeah. She's just a very, very savvy businesswoman, and it's very, it's what I do, so I'd love to know how to make that into a business. I don't think anybody else has ever done it as well as she has, so yeah, definitely Dita.
Agreed.
I would interview Gene Kelly. I would go back and I would interview Gene Kelly. I would ask him why he looks. I would ask him to marry me.
It's true.
But then after that, once I'd accepted, he always looks so joyous on stage. I've watched his movies as a little girl growing up. I've always loved his performance. He's always so committed to what he does. But I've always loved the joy that comes across on stage. He just looks like he's having the best time, which makes me want to have the best time. And I'd love to be able to get my head around, is it just because he's having a great time? Or are you just having a really good time? I love it. I just love, it's really the embodiment of what I like performance and dancing to be, really looking like you're in the moment.
Yeah, beautiful.
I think I would probably want to talk to someone who was working for the movie studios in like the Technicolor age, because that's what I grew up with. I don't know, Sid Charisse, or maybe even like Elizabeth Taylor, because it was just such a different age. And to me, that's what I grew up understanding. That was glamour.
Yeah,
that's what glamour looked like.
Yeah.
So I would love to talk to someone from that era and find out what it was actually like, what it felt like to be in those positions, in those movies, in those productions, in those costumes.
How do you know when a piece or a project is finished and needs no additional work?
It's never finished.
Never way.
No. If you're lucky enough to create something that people really like, it'll become your signature act, and hopefully you do it for years and years and years. Because you grow and evolve as a performer, so should your acts.
Yeah.
Whether it's, after 5 or so years you go back and redo the costume, but I think there's an element of spontaneity within those acts that they will evolve every time they're performed.
Yeah,
anyway.
I don't think you can keep an act exactly the same, even if you try, really.
Well, you've got to work with the room, you've got to work with how you're feeling, and I think, the more you perform and the more you develop as an artist, you bring more to it.
And acts, we know that acts do get retired. People will retire acts, but realistically, that's not necessarily going to be because other people are sick of it. It could be because they're sick of it.
Absolutely.
But it's not really going to be because it needs no more work. Mainly because crystals fall off.
Agreed.
We don't fit the costume.
We don't fit the costume anymore. But that's such a big thing. There can always be,
retooled,
it's more is more situation as well. There's never going to be a time where I go, well, that's the last embellishment I'm going to put in the costume. It's never going to happen.
Because you can still put shiny things on top of shiny things.
Yeah. And I think it's the nature of being a performing artist as well. At no point do you ever go, this is the best performance I will ever do.
Yeah. And now I have to stop.
And now I have to stop
now because it hit its
because
pinnacle.
that's it. I can never surpass this. You're always searching. You're always growing.
Yeah, exactly. What drives us to create is the pursuit of perfection.
Absolutely.
So I guess if we found it, then we'd be like, okay,
And I'm done.
naps now. Goodbye.
Just naps. More naps.
What advice do you have for aspiring artists in your field?
Transition from being, someone just coming to classes to going on to doing a solo. I think it's really important to take your time to find your brand, find your on-stage persona. Don't rush into things. Don't feel pressured to throw something together. Take your time. Do your research. I think that's super key. Because once you make those decisions, if you're lucky enough to be successful, you're stuck with them.
Yeah.
Yes.
For a really long time.
Definitely. I think that's really good advice. Really do think through your branding, especially in the day and age of Facebook. And so many events are promoted through Facebook. You get the images are taken at the event, you stick them up on the page, and that looks like fun. And then you look back, it's printed in ink now.
Yeah, it's true. It's so true.
Miss Fifi could Fifi La Fufu La whatever Von Tease. Von Tease. And then everyone goes, Miss Fifi Fufu Von Tease, you did so well. I would love to book you for my show. And you're like, God, how would you do that? What are really dark and serious?
Yes, and that's persona is such a big thing. It's a big thing for me as well. I've run with something that's come naturally to me, and now if I want to do a darker sort of act, I'm like, is that me? Am I going against my brand? Is that a good thing? How does that work? In terms of if people who are interested in their first foray into burlesque as opposed to moving from classes to soloists,
come to classes. You've never done it before and you want to give it a try, do. The worst case scenario is it's not for you.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you don't do it again. And I mean, all of the classes in Brisbane, I think I can say this for our school and all the other schools, they're all welcoming, safe, comfortable, supportive environments. You're not going to have to peel off layers in your first class.
They're going to kick you on stage and it's going to be
not exactly. So, you come in your gym clothes that you're comfortable in, you get to put on a cute pair of heels, you make some friends, you have a bit of a dance. It's low pressure, high fun situation.
Collaborative artwork, I guess. It's tricky for us because we are all solo performers. However, we are all teachers at the Bombshell Burlesque Academy. Therefore, we do work together on quite a few things. So our collaborative artwork would have to be the Bombshell Ball, which is our graduation student show at the end of each term that we do. What we kind of do is each class that kind of graduates, I guess, finishes their course in burlesque, they jump up and do their routine that they've learnt. We also do, as teachers, we do our solo acts as well. Yeah.
I love the Bombshells Ball. Maybe not on the day. But I really do love Bombshells Ball. They're a really true showcase of what we create and achieve at the Academy. So I'm really proud of it.
And in as little as 6 weeks for the girls that jump up there and do their group acts, they do so well. And some of them have never even taken a dance class in their lives.
It's true. And they've gone from walking into a class with no knowledge of anything to performing.
And they've learned
6 weeks.
They've learned their act, they've learned stage presence,
they've learned how to glue things onto things.
They've learned costuming. I mean, we talk about it being such a deep DIY creative outlet. It's not just creative in that what you put on stage in your movement, but it's so much about what you're wearing. So that's another thing that they've achieved that they get to show off as well. So that's I think that's a real good group achievement.
I really love something that we do that's a little bit different is we do 2 sessions of our show. We do an early show and a late show. Initially that was just due to demand. We had to fit all of the audience that we had that wanted to come in. But now I really, I don't know how to do it any differently because the results are so spectacular. To have a beginner performer, their face, their attitude before they go on stage for their first show performance. Some of them are nervous, they're freaking out, mum's in the audience. It's very, very scary. An hour and a half later, they come back to do their second session. They are a different person. Like I'm about to perform. I have got this. Check me out, mum. So that evolution in that hour and a half is amazing. It's something that's really, really spectacular. And I love it. I absolutely love it. And teachers like yourselves are so key because you create all of the routines, all of the acts for the students, which is a phenomenal and ongoing job.
And I'm so proud to watch them on stage. I really love that.
You feel like you're doing it with them.
Yeah.
You hold your breath the whole time. You got it. It's like some weird like pseudo stage mum thing going.
All the way.
Or you see a performer, a student do their hair in a vintage style for the first time. You just say, well done, well done.
My God,
you know?
that's amazing.
You know, so and it's beautiful to see that growth. I really enjoy
definitely.
it. And the audiences seem to enjoy it as well.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
that's not terrible either.
Yeah, woohoo!
We're from the Bombshell Burlesque Academy, and we've been caught in the raw with Steve McMarson.